uh, in chapter, I think, 53. Let's see. Yeah, 53. And we're coming to the end here. Oops, how did that happen? And he's kind of just talk. We were trying to arrive at quiet last week, and how to make the theory real. And the theory, this Advaita, the theory becomes real. That could be annoying and say when it's not a theory, but it becomes real in the silence of the heart. It's not a space that you arrive of but through contemplation, where you sit there and think about it, or try to reason it out, or try to philosophize it out. Uh, you can come to a logical understanding, but you'll have to break all kinds of rules to tell anybody about it. And so it really is something that you only know when everything is quiet. So we normally live with the mind telling us everything about the moment. Oh, it's cold outside. Oh, it's a beautiful day. Oh, it's this time. Oh, it's breakfast. So we're led all the time by our mind telling us what we think and what we need to do and how we feel. And from that, we live an egoistic life, because that's what that is. The mind is telling you the narrative of egoism, and you thinking that it's talking to you, thinking that it's you talking to you, you obey and live this life. And so to break out of that, we have to go before it or go beyond it. We have to pull our heads out of the mind and spend just a split second of a moment in true silence, when there's no noise in the mind and no noise in the body, which is also in the mind. And you just, in that split second, will know what you are without anybody telling you what you are, because none of us needs to be told what we are. And so really all of our practice is to simply to get our mind to shut up, or to get ourselves in a state of dispassion toward the mind, and so that we can be, right? So that we can be. And that's all that can happen at that point. You can't say anything more, and you don't need anything more. And so Maharaj, we'll start one paragraph before we started, before where we ended last week. And he's trying to. The questioner just told him, well, I'm about to go back from my vacation that I've spent here trying to learn, and I'm going back empty-handed. All I got is theory. I want something real. And so Maharaj says, if you just try to keep quiet, all will come, right? And that's that state of knowledge, uh, which is native to you. That's the very surprising thing about silent mind. I'm always telling people to think is to be egoistic, or to have a thought is egoism. And especially in our culture, everybody gets very concerned at the idea of an idiot who's not thinking, just sitting there drooling, just being, uh, I won't use any examples. I don't want to offend anybody, but you just kind of sit there with no thought, and that's sort of our image of it. But that is absolutely, absolutely 100% in the other direction, because we associate no thought with tamas, with laziness, right? And so we assume that it's a state of tamas to sit there with no thought. But to sit there with no thought is actually at the opposite end of the thing, because you are fully present in the most dynamic thing we know, the moment, right? The moment. This. You are just sitting there being it, and in that silence there, you know who you are. And this knowing who you are gives you all the wisdom that comes from knowing who you are. Everything finds its place. You understand isness, which is what everybody's experiencing. And so that wisdom is natively yours. It's not something you learn. And it's not something that you have to query. You don't have to go in there and ask for it like you do things from your mind. right? It's directly yours. And so he's telling them, if you just get it quiet, you know, all will come. The work, right? What is in front of you becomes apparent. You need to do the strength for work, right? You have no opinion about the work, no ideas about the work. You're simply engaged, present in it. So there's no argument about it. There's no pushing past laziness or pushing past anxiety or any of those things. The right motive, right? The right motive will always be the love that you are, the wisdom that you are. Those will manifest spontaneously without narrative or effort, because that is what you are. He says, must you know everything beforehand, right? Do you have to build a castle of thought in your mind before you think you know something? Right? Do you have to have everything beforehand? Do you have to be constantly looking where you're going rather than accepting where you are? Don't be anxious about your future. Be quiet now and all will fall in place, right? Your future is going to come to you one moment at a time. If you're off worrying about the future, you're going to miss it, right? Or you're going to not act mindfully in it. And that's where your problems are coming from, right? He says, so stop being anxious about your future. It's going to come at you one moment at a time. And if you are silent and accept what comes, you will know how to handle it perfectly because that's who you are, right? And you'll act from love, you'll act from wisdom, and you'll do it as worship, and you'll let go of it, and it will have been excellent, right? It will bear the marks of that exactly. Your earnestness and your sincerity will be invested in it, and it will set you free ultimately. So better and better things will come depending on where you're starting from, right? The unexpected is bound to happen, while the anticipated may never come. Don't tell me you cannot control your nature. You need not control it. Throw it overboard. Have no nature to fight or to submit to, right? So the other way of saying that is let the narrative go on. Throw your interest in it overboard. Don't sit there and be interested in the constant stream of thought of your mind, right? It's not you. And in the end, you'll realize it had nothing to do with you at all. It was just taking information in from the senses and idling along. And your interest is what engaged it, right? So he's saying, don't try and control it. Don't sit there and try and make the mind quiet. Don't sit there and try and do anything. Why? Because you're not the doer, right? And so to sit there and try and quiet your mind is the very trouble that's making your mind noisy, right? It's your interest in the mind from the perspective of me and mine that causes this noise. So withdraw me and mine, you know. Instead of being the point in the middle of this body, try for a moment to be everything in the room at once. Don't have a single thought that limits you to any particular perspective or point, right? That's a very high ideal. But that's what will naturally happen actually as you silence, right? So it's not a doing, it's a surrendering. It's an opening, it's a widening, right? Don't let your mind think of any particular. You are not particular. There is no such thing as a person. You are universal. So open your mind to all possibilities. Don't let it limit you by telling you any one thing at a time, right? You need not control it, throw it overboard. Just become disinterested in it. There's no problem. You are realized. You're finished. You're ever free. You've never been born. You'll never die. All of those things that Vivekananda tells us to say over and over and over again, they are all true. And they become real in this still point, in this silence. Right? And so as a bhakta, you're taking this and for the Gyani, he's got to sit there with that and really open to this quiet and do the practices that will help with that. For the bhakta, you're going to accomplish the very same thing by falling in love with the moment, right? When you start silencing, the moment you feel wonderful bliss come from your nature. a wonderful energy, a very calm and contented energy, not a coffee energy that comes to you in the moment, right? And feeds you. You become aware of that and you love that. You honor that, right? You dance with that. You speak with that. You share your conscious mind with that, right? And what happens is you grow more and more interested and more in love with the moment. And that draws you into the moment. And that love of the moment, the nature of the moment, expands. And your sensation is an ever deepening love of God for you, right? And it's done through grace and grace alone. And grace, the process of accepting grace, is the same process that the Jnani is going to have to go through to empty mind. It's an opening, 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 accepting, accepting, letting go, letting go, letting go, right? But your whole motive is, gosh, I don't have to worry about a noisy mind because Mother's grace has already given me freedom, right? I don't have to worry about any of these narratives because Mother has given me freedom. She has told me she will take care of me. She has told me that she's watching, that she's present, right? And so your dance with the moment becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. And that love is what silences the mind. It fills the mind. It gives you all that you want. And the me and mine becomes thou and thine when that love begins to mature, right? Because there's no concern for yourself, right? There's only this love welling out of you, and it manifests. It manifests to the benefit of everybody around you. So he says, have no nature to fight or to submit to. No experience will hurt you, right? Then help thinking about yourself watching television. That's a good way, and none of the danger on the TV is ever going to hurt you. The same thing with the dream at night. In the dream, that gang in New York could be chasing you down the road, and if they catch you, what they do to you? Wake you up. That's the most. Right? And so there's nothing to fear. No experience will hurt you, provided you don't make it into a habit, right? You get caught in the dream. You get habits that take you deeper into the dream, right? These things that attach you to your body, that attach you to your senses, all right? You constantly go, well, we won't give examples. Grasp this point firmly and deeply and dwell on it repeatedly. To realize this as absolutely true is liberation. Right? So you can just take that paragraph there and write it on your fridge and just understand if you can accept that and know it to be absolutely true, which is what happens as you open and open and open and open and surrender, 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 surrender. You let that wedge go deeper and deeper and deeper until you have your liberation, your freedom. You get freed from your mind, no longer under its control and judgment. All right. Now his question, this is where we start for today. The questioner, if I am the seed of my universe, then a rotten seed I am. By the fruit the seed is known, right? If I'm the cause of my universe, this is a hard thing to hold on to. We blame everything, right? We blame everything. That's one of the problems with me and my therapist. I'm always getting someone else I can blame. Oh, my dad did this, my mom did that. My teacher at school did this, and now I'm feeling this, and all my troubles are because all these terrible people did terrible things to me, right? Which is not true. Whenever you blame somebody, what's the problem with that? The problem with blaming anything is that you take that power out of yourself. If it's someone else's fault, they have the power over you and they have to fix it. All right? It's like having a fight with your friend and you blame them. Well, now you have to sit and wait for your friend to apologize, where you could just go and make friends and fix it up, right? But you're bound to yourself because your mind will be like, no, they're the ones that said that horrible thing. They need to apologize, right? And so you withhold yourself from your friend, which is unpleasant. You're making yourself suffer, and you think you're making them suffer, which they may or may not be, but you're definitely making yourself suffer, right?
Swami,
And
it's almost like it's a kind of laziness to do that. I think that's how I look at it. You don't step forward. You're just kind of stuck when you do that.
Yes, yes, it's that inertia. It is tamas. It is that which sinks you down. You can't push against it, and you avoid it. And even the thought of it makes you anxious, right? And so you go into ignorance, right? You start ignoring it, you start pushing it away to make room for a pretend happiness that doesn't have to deal with that problem. And that place that you're taking refuge in like that, if it's done without mindfulness, that is worldliness. That's into pushing yourself into worldliness because that's where you go to be distracted. And most of the peace in this world comes from a state of distraction, right? Whether it's drinking or drugs or entertainment or vacations or whatever it is, it's distraction. And as long as you are taking refuge in a distraction, you will have no inner peace, no real inner peace. And you'll need noise. You'll need constant company. You'll need constant activities. You'll need, to always be planning your next party, your next vacation, your next trip, your next grandchild, your next car, your next computer, your new toy. All of these things, this is how we get trapped. And when we invest in them again and again and again, you're creating that habit that he's warning you about. That will become your normal, and you won't be able to see outside of it. You will have created a state of being, right? And that will become your comfort and very difficult to leave. So if I am the seed of my universe, then a rotten seed I am, but by the fruit the seed is known. Maharaj, what is wrong with your world that you swear at it? Questioner, it's full of pain. Maharaj, nature is neither pleasant or painful. Right? So he's saying it's to you. See, this is one of those invitations for going inside. What do you mean? Nature is neither pleasant nor painful. How is that possible, right? That's like it's the exact same thing as saying the moment is always perfect. I wrestled with that for years. I was like, what are you talking about? The moment is almost never perfect. It's either too cold or too hot, or I wish I was somewhere else, or I wish I was finished with the thing I was doing, right? But that's when we go inside. And when we go inside, we start to learn about how this inner world is put together. And you realize all that stuff that makes the moment imperfect belongs to body or mind. It's either the mood or a sensation, right? That's the only thing making the moment imperfect. And so you develop that understanding by watching closely and experience the experiencer, not the experience, right? So you become aware of your awareness, aware of yourself as the watcher of both the body and mind, and you come to realize that all the trouble comes from them. Nothing ever arises within the self. The self is peace, the peace that passes understanding. It has no needs. It's just watching. Blissful, wise, quiet, watching. And that's your nature. And when you're able to neti into that space, you taste that. And once you've tasted it once, then mother's playing, right? Then the dance really begins because suddenly there's nothing else that you can imagine. Nothing else was ever quite as interesting as that one little direct moment of being. Yeah. So nature is neither pleasant nor painful. It is all intelligence and beauty. Pain and pleasure are in the mind. Change your scale of values, and all will change. Pleasure and pain are mere disturbances of the senses. Treat them equally, and there will be only bliss. And the world is what you and the world is what you make it. By all means, make it happy. Only contentment can make you happy. Desires fulfilled breed more desires. Oof. There's one of those things we always need to remember. To fulfill desires just breeds more desires, right? You get in that habit. I remember back in the 90s when I was out there in the computer world and working, and every time, this new computer would come out. I remember when the Macintosh came out for the first time, when you moved the window on the screen, the whole window would move. Oh my God, what a powerful computer that had never been done before. I took a special trip to the bookshop so I could go and move a window on the screen and actually see the window move. It was like all at once, not just the outline. It was amazing. I had to have it, right? And then just every 6 to 8 months, the new one would come out. And now this time this can happen, and now this time that can happen, and now this screen is this good, and this keyboard is this nice, right? And you just get on that thing where you're always buying new gear, always buying new gear. And if when you're not buying new gear, you're looking for new gear, right? And it's like that for any set of desires. Whatever place in the world you're taking refuge in, that's how you know. It's something you keep returning to, and you keep investing, and you're never getting anything permanent out of it. It's just building a desire that will not end, right? Only contentment can make you happy. Desires fulfilled breed more desires. Keeping away from all desires and contentment in what comes by itself is a very fruitful state, a precondition of the state of fullness. Don't distrust its apparent sterility and emptiness. Believe me, it is the satisfaction of desires that breeds misery. Right? Freedom from desire is bliss. To have your mind wander, not wander. Right? I told you that one day I was going through this exercise of not this, not this, and I was doing it by my body parts, right? And so I was going all the way up and up and up and up and up. And I got through not being any part of my body and just sitting there very quietly. And then I started on the mind, right? And of course, I didn't get all that far, but I got into a state of happiness, a state of a sense of relief was really what I felt. And as soon as I started brushing my teeth and looking in the mirror with this wonderful feeling of bliss, of contentment, my thought came to me, I'm free. What should I do? Do you see? So even the thought of my freedom, I saw my freedom as something external, right? And what do I do with freedom? What should I do? I'm free. Should I go get a coffee? Should I go get a muffin? Should I call up a friend? Should I go for a bike ride? Should I go for a walk? Right? And immediately we're right back in it again, all the way. So this is why we practice, so that we can continually bring it back, continually bring it back. Just keep bringing it back. Very patient, very present, because every time you bring it back, it's a little bit closer to home inside. And freedom from desire is bliss. There are things we need, though, the questioner says. What you need will come to you. That's a state of surrender, right? What you need will come to you. If you do not ask for what you if you do not ask for what you do not need. Right? So be careful. If you go out and grab things that you don't need, now you've got responsibilities, right? That love for orchids, now you have to run around watering orchids on time and fertilizing them on time and cleaning off the leaves on time and waiting for them to bloom on time, right? You get caught up in these things. And my questioner says, well, there are things we need. Well, what you need will come to you if you do not ask for what you do not need. Yet only a few people reach this state of complete dispassion and detachment. It is a very high state. It's at the very threshold of liberation, right? So, questioner, well, I've been barren for the last 2 years, desolate and empty, and often I was praying for death to come. Maharaj, well, with your coming here, events have started rolling. Let things happen as they happen, right? Change your attitude. Stop striving. Stop pushing. Stop forcing. Come to this place. Let things happen as they happen. They will sort themselves out nicely in the end. Right? So there may be a period in there because there's some samskaras, there's still some stuff, some noise happening within us. But if you start that process of accepting the moment as perfect as it is, that's a big step forward, right? So when you're sitting there at night and you have nothing to do, don't get all worried. Don't get all caught up in, oh, what should I do? Right? You start trying to think of things and nothing of them is quite satisfying. And then you start feeling weird because nothing satisfies you, right? Then the night goes south. Instead, just sit there, enjoy, accept the moment as it is, let it be quiet, let there be nothing necessary to do. And in that, something will inspire you. You'll look over and see your crochet needle that you haven't touched in 2 years, right? You pick it up and say, oh, I'll start doing that. Or a book that you meant to read and haven't picked up in days, right? Just don't pick up an iPad and play games or go to YouTube Shorts. Don't do it. I warn you ahead of time, right? Don't go for distraction. Go for something that leads you toward being quiet and open. So you're coming here, events have started rolling. Let things happen as they happen. They will sort themselves out nicely in the end. You need not strain toward the future. The future will come to you on its own. For some time longer, you will remain sleepwalking, as you do now, bereft of meaning and assurance. But this period will end, and you will find your work both fruitful and easy. There are always moments when one feels empty and estranged. Such moments are most desirable, for it means the soul had cast its moorings and is sailing for distant places. This is detachment, when the old is over and the new has not yet come. If you are afraid, the state may be distressing, but there is really nothing to be afraid of. Remember the instruction, whatever you come across, go beyond. Right? That's that whole story of go forward, go forward. And this strange in-between stage, some people say St. John calls that the dark night of the soul. It's when your detachment from the world begins to gain a bit of fruit, right? So there's no real desire to go out and do, but you haven't quite touched the inner bliss either. And so you're kind of left in a dark space. You're left in a time where you're not interested in much in the world, but it feels like you're not inspired. It feels like you're just out in the desert, right? And it's an in-between part. And it will last as long as your insincerity and lack of earnestness lasts. That's the bad news. Right? But open, 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 open. And that period will end of its own accord. You need not try and find anything. That's the temptation during that period, right? When you're in that place, you want to get out of this place, and then all of your samskaras will come forward and make suggestions on where to go, what to get, where to hide, right, from all of those things. And once you start hiding, that's going into ignorance, right? You're hiding. What are you hiding from? The things you're ignoring, the things you're pushing away, and that's ignorance. And so even in that space, say, this is the space. This is the darkness of the night, the night of the soul, the dark night of the soul. So this is what it looks like, right? Still being unaffected by it, because your nature is not dark. Your nature is not tamasic. So don't own it as an attribute. Just watch and say, this is what the dark night of the soul is. I see. And then start chanting the name, right? Start chanting the name. Keep your attention on this side and not on this side. This side, not this side. Looking inward, not outward. Right? Remember the instruction, whatever you come across, go beyond, go forward. The Buddha's questioner says, the Buddha's rule to remember what needs to be remembered, but I find it so difficult to remember the right thing at the right moment. With me, forgetting seems to be the rule. Right. Now, now he's starting to sound like me, right? Forgetting seems to be the rule. Well, Maharaj says, it is not easy to remember when every situation brings up a storm of desire and fears. Craving born of memory is also the destroyer of memory, right? Yeah, it distracts you. These cravings distract you from isness, and that isness is what becomes memory. And if you're not present, you don't remember, right? How many times we don't remember because we weren't paying attention or we were so highly distracted. So how am I to fight desire? There's nothing stronger. It does feel like that sometimes, but it's just because you're identifying with that desire, and it's more because you're thinking about that desire. That's the thing. As soon as that desire is not in your thoughts, you have no desire. But as long as that desire is in your thoughts and you believe it, you own it as your own. If you don't discern and realize, God, I've desired that thing so many times and I have fulfilled it so many times, and here I am in the same position again, still thinking that I need it because it'll fulfill me, and it hasn't fulfilled me until now. What makes me think this time is going to fulfill me, right? And you remember all that this time will offer is the pleasant. Well, the Upanishad says that the wise man chooses the good and not the pleasant. And what is the good? The good is to be free. The good is to be not attached, right? And so then you start chanting the name to let that other disappear. You don't try and push the other away. You don't try and repress it. You don't try and do anything with it. You just start paying attention to something else. It will fall away. That's how the mind works, right? Pay attention to something else. Pay attention to paying attention. But get that other thing out of the mind, and then it's crippled. That's all it requires. You don't have to battle it. You don't have to fight it. You don't have to work it through. You just have to let yourself forget it by doing something different, by reading a book, by chanting the name, by singing a song, or practicing an instrument, or working on something else. That's all. Once it's not in your mind, it has no power over you, right? Just don't attach to it, which means hold it in your mind. Keep playing the scenario over and over and over again. Oh, it'd be so nice when that Ferrari pulls into my garage. Oh, can you imagine walking out my door and seeing that shiny red stallion on the side of the car? Oh, it's going to be fantastic. My neighbors will, oh my gosh, my son is going to think so much of me. Right? That's how we get attached. We start playing it over and over, and we find more and more attraction and more cool things. And then suddenly we go out, we spend the money on that car, $100,000, and you come home and you drive it home, and you realize that's all it does. It drives. You can turn on the radio just like you can in a Ford, right? And you're going to have to spend double the money every time you need oil on this thing. And then you sit there and think, God, the other things I could have done with $100,000. Then you have buyer's remorse, right? But once you've bought a car, as soon as you drive it off that lot, you've lost $20,000, right? There just is no winning. So don't be fooled by your desires. They lead you to misery. Don't participate. Don't fight them. Don't push against them. Simply let go of them. All of the power they have is the power you're giving them by not letting go of them. They have no inherent power in themselves. They are not strong desires. They are a very weak little thought that you've attached to and called it powerful. But it's not. It's no more powerful than any other thought. If you withdraw your power from it, it snivels off into nothing. All the power is in you. There's one person in you, and that person is the king, right? It doesn't have to be subject to anything. So don't be. How am I to fight desire? There is nothing stronger. The waters of life are thundering over the rocks of objects. Here we have a poetic Jnani here. The waters of life, right? Living, your awareness, your being, your isness, your Satchitananda, that is the water of life, right? That is what inspires all action at the end of in the highest truth. Right? The waters of life are thundering over the rocks of objects. So all these things around you, as you're looking at them, they become thoughts because Satchitananda is reflected over them, reflected back to you as it runs over them. Thundering over the rocks of objects, desirable or hateful, Remove the rocks by insight and detachment, and the same waters will flow deep and silent and swift, in greater volume and with greater power. Right? You become that very focused. So that's the one thing about Swami Prabhupada. That was always amazing to me. He was a rock. He was never in moods. He was never frantic. He was never in a hurry. You know, he never had to, when you'd ask him a question, he'd never answer on the spot. He would say, "Oh, let us see." Right? And then at some point, he would come back to you with his answer to what you said, and you'd already forgotten what you asked. Right? But he was always that. He would walk into a room, and just his presence would bring silence to the room. I told those stories. Amazing soul. This is what it is to be one person, right? To not break yourself into all different people that are arguing in your head all the time about all different kinds of things because you don't know who you are. You can't remember which thought you are because you're none of them. And you've attached to so many. And that party sometimes turns into a family reunion of screaming and scratching and hair pulling. Or did I say too much? Yes. All right. Where are we at here? Very good. So, chapter 54, body and mind are symptoms of ignorance. All right. So we can diagnose each other now. Oh, you've got the body mind disease. Oh, that's a terrible one. Boy, that's hard to get over. Yeah, I feel for you. Questioner, we were discussing one day the person, the witness, the absolute. As far as I remember, you said that the absolute alone is real, and the witness is absolute only at a given point of space and time. The person is the organism, gross and subtle, illumined by the presence of the witness. I do not seem to grasp the matter clearly. Could we discuss it again? You also used the term Mahadakash, the Tijakash, and the Paramakash. How are they related to person, witness, and the absolute? Hmm. Well, he wants names for everything now. All right, Maharaj. The Mahadakash is nature, the ocean of existences, the physical space with all that can be contacted through the senses. Okay? The Chit Akash is the expanse of awareness, the mental space of time, perception, and cognition. The Paramakash is the timeless and spaceless reality before this, that is the timeless and spaceless reality, mindless, undifferentiated, which means not paid attention to, no particularizing. It's undifferentiated. The infinite potentiality, that potentiality will be the first experience of inspiration from the Satchitananda, from that being. This, the infinite potentiality, the source and origin, the substance and the essence, both matter and consciousness, and yet beyond both, right? Matter and consciousness, consciousness from mind, matter from body, but you beyond both, right? You beyond both. It cannot be perceived because anything perceived is from body, right? Body has the senses. It cannot be perceived because you can't put it in front of your senses, but can be experienced as ever witnessing the witness, becoming aware of your awareness, letting all of your experience, instead of being interested in the experience, be interested in the experiencer, right? So instead of looking out and being, oh my God, this is so much fun, and oh, how beautiful this is, pay attention to that which sees beauty. Ah, what is that? How did I know that was beautiful? Why did I call that beautiful? And or not think about, but put your attention on the attention that's aware of everything, that's giving you everything that your mind and body react to, right? See the source, not the reflection. right? That's it's kind of like sitting backwards in the theater. In the theater, instead of paying attention to the screen, you're the one goofball sitting there, sitting backwards in your chair and watching the projector up through that little square hole in the wall, right? That's how a spiritual person watches life, right? Keep your back to the changing. Keep your eye on that's not on that which is not changing, and you won't get pulled into the narrative. Everybody else will be laughing and weeping and crying and terrified, whatever, however they're being manipulated by the senses. But you, steady, unafraid, unaffected, focused, calm, at peace. All right. Very different experience of being. And if it was just the projector that we were looking at, that would be very uninteresting. But when you're not looking at anything else, you are the potential of all movies, the potential of all narratives, the potential of all stories. And you find, like, there's a great Japanese artist, I can't remember his name, but he did a series of pictures of great theaters, beautiful movie theaters around the world. And he would go into the theater and he would put his camera up in the balcony and he would open the lens when the movie started, not lens, but shutter. And then he would close the shutter when the movie was over. Right. And so he had these beautifully bright pictures of all this wonderful architecture. And every movie was a bright white screen because the essence of all movies is white, a white screen. Right. And so every picture of every movie that he kept the lens open from beginning to end and closed it was just a luminous white screen. And so this is what the knower sees, right? The potential of all movies is that bright white screen, which is what that which emanates Satchitananda, right? That which is the source of all movies, of all narratives. All right, and he just broke it into his parts here, right? The Mahatakash is the external world that you're experiencing, right? And then the Chittakash is the expansive awareness, that inner space that is has the seer and the seen, right? Playing at the subtle level as thought dancing around in there, the mental space of time, perception, and cognition. And the Paramakash is that which is watching, the timeless and spaceless reality, mindless, right? So no thought, no waves, just observing, undifferentiated, not choosing to pay attention to anything over anything else, not particularizing, not paying attention to boundary, undifferentiated, just leave it, right? The infinite potentiality. You begin to be aware of the white light that is the essence of the whole thing, right? And that white light brings with it you become the verb, the reflection of that white light. When you act, when you see yourself as the doer, you become the actor, the verb of that white light, which is love, wisdom, and being, right? So you start being something, you start thinking about something, and you start loving something. So you get caught in your own skirt, as it were. Go beyond both to this paramakash. It cannot be perceived, but can be experienced as ever witnessing the witness, perceiving the perceiver, the origin and the end of all manifestation, the root of time and space, the prime cause in every chain of causation. Always that white light, right? That white light of awareness, always shining out of you. Everything you experience it is that white light of you reflecting off of mind, reflecting off of and being prismed by thought, right? It's the prisms of thought that become objects. And then you get feelings about those objects, opinions about those objects, thinking them to be real, not realizing that they arose and fell in your own mind as you watched the mind play. Now he wants to know, what is the difference between Vyakta and Avyakta? And Maharaj says there is no difference. It's like light and daylight. The universe is full of light, which you do not see, but the same light you see as daylight. And what the daylight reveals is the Vyakti, The person is always the object, the witness is the subject, and their relation of mutual dependence is the reflection of their absolute identity. You imagine that they are distinct and separate states. They are not. They are the same consciousness at rest and in movement, each state conscious of the other. In Chit, man knows God and God knows man. In Chit, the man shapes the world and the world shapes man. Chit is the link, the bridge between extremes, the balancing and uniting factor in every experience. The totality of the perceived is what you call matter. The totality of all perceivers is what you call universal mind. The identity of the two, manifesting itself as perceptibility and perceiving, harmony and intelligence, loveliness and loving, reasserts itself eternally. Right? Fascinating, beautiful. That all of this is happening right now, and we're in a state of confusion by most of it. We don't know where to put our point of origin because we're not a point of origin, right? We are that universal light. So what's happening is that this light is shining, right? And it shines through an ego produced by the mind and then becomes your external world, right? Becomes your external world, those things that are on the other side of the boundary, right? And you watch all of those things happen and you get involved in them. You believe them. And you don't think that you're dreaming. You don't think it's unreal. This is really happening to me, right? And we've been told a million times that we're not going to die. And as good Vedantins, our first question is always, what happens after I die? Right? Which is something. This shows our need for practice, that right there, because that is a truth. I've watched 27, 28 years of question and answer sessions with a multitude of different swamis. And there's always that question at some point. What happens after we die? Right? And the first lesson of every Vedantin is you never die. You've never been born. Yeah, but what happens? Right? I saw a beautiful discussion of death last night on YouTube. This old Buddhist sage was asked, "What is death?" And he said, "Your birth is like a drop of water coming up from the pond and descending." He said, "And that's your life as a drop, separate and apart from the whole." And he says, "Then in old age, that drop begins falling back again. And death is the homecoming, the return to the whole, the freedom from the particular." Right? He says, so it's the happy reunion back to yourself, back to your wholeness. Like that. I love that idea of that drop going up. Why do I like that? Because it's inevitable. Your realization is inevitable. When that drop returns to the ocean, all of that peace you've ever longed for, that you've been looking under every couch and behind every chair for all of your life, will be yours. And you'll realize that it was in your pocket the whole time. Right? That's freedom. So there is no difference. The three gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas, are they only in matter or also in the mind? That's a fun one, because if they're matter, where else is matter? Matter is only in the mind. Maharaj, in both, of course, right? Because the two are not separate. It is only the absolute that is beyond gunas. In fact, these are but points of view, ways of looking. They exist only in the mind. Beyond the mind, all distinctions cease. Right? That's how we know that karma is not yours. We always talk about your karma. It's only your karma because you call it yours. You clutch it. It's just in the mind, right? It's in the mind, but you clutch it. My karma, right? There was I always tell this, I've never found a person who actually even remembers the electric company. If you grew up in the States, there's a wonderful there was when I was a kid, a wonderful TV show called The Electric Company. It was just a series of little lessons, like little vignettes of lessons about life for kids. And there was this character called Myrna. And all whenever Myrna came on, she always did the same thing, but it was always funny as a kid. You laughed every time, even though it was the same thing every time. Myrna's always in the middle of her apartment. She was a little stick figure girl, and she'd be like, my telephone. And she'd reach over and grab the telephone and put it in her arms. My lamp. And she would grab it. My couch, my chair, my carpet, my pet, my pots, my plants. And at some point, the floor would give way and she'd fall through into the basement with all of her stuff. And then you'd hear her echoing in the basement, my furnace, my water main, my all these things. And the idea was that you these things, if you have mine, you're going to fall through the floor. It's just you're just going to be overwhelmed by it all, right? So we have to be careful about that, because it can get weird. I've met a few folks dealing with hoarding in my time in the monastery. Fascinating condition of mind to not even be able to go into your house because of all the things you've collected, and then not be able to let go of even a single piece of paper. You know, one young man, one gentleman, he's passed away now, used to live in the old temple in San Francisco. And when he started sleeping on the couch in the hallway by the phone, you would know that he could no longer get in his room. He would fill his room two-thirds full of stuff. He was working on a book. That's how it started. He was working on a book, and anytime he found some information or pamphlet or something that was necessary for his book, he would collect it. Well, eventually he started just unloading the free newspaper bins and taking the whole stack and putting them in a paper bag and bringing them back, going to the post office. And they must have hated him because he went through and just took all the free stuff and put it in his bag and brought it home. And he filled that room up two-thirds high, could no longer get in there. And he was late. He would sleep on the couch in the hallway. And so when I was assigned to clean his room out, I wanted to participate. I wanted him to not feel like I was just going to throw all his stuff away. And so I gave him a box of stuff from his room and put him at the dining room table, the other end of the house, and I had two boxes, one for trash and one for keeping. One was going to go, one was going to stay. I would get back there and it would be a box of like envelopes from the post office. And he would keep all of them except for one. Right? But the trick was he was back there going through it one by one and trying to make that decision, even though he was only going to throw away one. And then me and the other brahmacharis had the window of his room open and we were just throwing it out into the dump truck outside the window. And then every now and then we'd take him another box because he couldn't let go of even an envelope, even an old flyer. He could come up with a reason on why that needed to be kept, right? And aren't we the same? We go into the attic to clean it out, we pick it up, and it's, oh, that's so sentimental. That's such a nice thing. I don't need to throw about it, but it's got holes in it. You can't, yeah, but it's, it just reminds me of, and so we keep that, and then we keep something else. And then we cleaned up the garage by taking a single little box out. Be careful of desire. It's a sickness. It's not normal. That's why we practice to be cured, of this thing. So go forward. Be courageous. It cannot hurt you. It is your nature. And it's inevitable. So relax into it. Accept the moment. It's always been perfect. It will always be perfect. And when you find it, that is heaven. All right. Stop there for the morning.